Welcome to the show that looks at truth, fiction, and reality with a smirk. I'm Aaron Peterson.
I'm Amanda Sink.
And I'm Zach Parkerson.
And welcome to Smirk. Every other week, one of our hosts introduces an original story, which then uses a springboard for a spirited and lighthearted discussion, whatever the moral or theme is. This is the end of season 4 of Smirk. We are taking a hiatus after this episode, or maybe this is the actual end. It really depends on you.
Depends on the truth and the fiction.
Triction!
Oh, boy.
I think what Aaron is trying to say is share the show with your friends.
Exactly.
Get them to listen.
Exactly.
What if I don't have friends?
Make some.
Yeah, go work on it. Well, there you go.
Yeah, you know what? I'll just go outside to a local bar.
No, just go on Twitter, man.
Mingle. Don't wear a mask. Don't just touch them. Maybe get right up on them.
Sit on top of them.
You want to whisper into their ear?
Like that? Get some spittle out there?
That's romantic, yeah.
Yeah, people like that, especially nowadays.
Sure. Aaron, it's your week.
Don't you miss when you could hug?
No.
Yes.
Look at that. We have varied opinions on this show.
All right, let's dive into it since this is episode 100. Amanda, why do you love hugs?
Because they're comforting.
I think they're incredibly discomforting.
Oh, well, I love hugs.
Tell you what, if somebody wants a hug, I'll give them a hug, but I'm never going to want a hug. I don't want your comfort. Get out of here.
Ever? There's nobody in the world you're ever like, oh, I love getting hugs from this person. I'm not trying to brag, but I did teach someone how to hug once.
Stan Lee gave me a great side hug.
Did it make you feel anything?
Tell you what? You know
monster.
who's a great hugger, actually? Jason Momoa.
Oh, beautiful. So is Jake Gyllenhaal.
He loves to hug other people's girlfriends.
Did he hug your girlfriend?
No, he's famous for like taking pictures with a guy's girlfriend and then like pushing them away while he's hugging them.
Oh, that's funny. Well, It was just me.
Did he hug you?
Huh? Yeah, he did. He was outrageously excited. He was hugging everybody.
That counts though. It's still, he hugged you. Was he all shirtless and sweaty?
No, he was dressed up as the Mad Hatter from Alice in Wonderland.
Did he give like a really like tight embrace?
Jesus, man, that's a lot of questions I was not expecting about my hug.
I feel like Jason Momoa with his like big strong arms would just give like the best hug.
It was a very
really
tight embrace. I feel like I almost went airborne just due to our natural height difference.
Did you go? Were you off the ground at all?
I cannot distinctly remember. I know I was lifted. I don't know if I was off the air.
Oh,
He's much taller.
Like the best.
He's much taller and much stronger than me, so both of those things are quite possible. I was also lighter then, and he was riding high because it was like a week after he was announced as Aquaman, so he was on top of the world, this guy.
Oh, what a sweet
That's
soul.
adorable. And
Yeah.
did it make you smile?
It did make me smile a little bit. But then I was a little bit annoyed by the end of our photo interaction, because I'm like, okay, man, you got a lot of energy. I can't keep up with this.
Would you ever want a hug from him again?
Hang
Yes.
on. That's
Okay.
not a
Where we
bad
going?
thing. Energy is not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing.
I operate at a different wavelength, that's all. Yes, I would take another hug from Jason Momoa. No, I would not hang out with him for an entire evening.
But my question was,
answer.
would you want one? You said you never want hugs.
Well, he's
different.
If his shirt's off, especially, of course, I'll get in
Yeah.
there. Why not?
And if he says welcome aboard.
Well, then that's a whole different kind of night.
I don't want to hug shirtless Jason Momoa. He's a
I
stud.
do.
But I just feel like, no, it's going to be all
Even my
sweaty.
grandmother does.
It's just, no. He's sweaty.
This is a tangent I did not expect.
He could
I mean,
sweat
it's
on
important.
me. It's fine.
I mean, he made $1 billion because he was sweaty and shirtless in all the ads.
He was wet.
Yeah.
He's literally Aquaman.
Well, that helps too.
I mean, you could probably make the case that it's probably sweat, but more likely water, because he's in it a lot.
Yeah, but he has to make a bubble if he wants to talk, though.
His name is literally Waterman.
No, it's literally Aquaman, Aaron.
Yeah, Waterman.
Aguaman. Agua amigo.
Ah. All right. Well, if you like Smirk, every app has a share feature, so please do us a favor, share this episode on your social media outlets. If you ever want to see Smirk again or hear it Smirk again.
I can't imagine how you wouldn't after that.
Okay, well, it's my turn for a story this week.
You better make it good.
I'll give it my best. It has feelings. Probably.
Aww.
Maybe.
Are you sure?
Not really. Mm-mm. Are you ready?
I think so.
Okay. Gather around the campfire. It's time for a story.
Batman telling us a story this week. And he's stealing my lines.
I'm going to do the whole story in Batman voice. Once upon a time.
Please do.
Once upon a time in Gotham.
I killed Alfred.
You should actually do this. I'm really waiting for it.
I think it would ruin everything about the story, but I'll keep that in mind for the future. If Smirk suddenly takes off and goes to the roof, the next episode will totally be a Batman story in Batman voice.
I was going to say, it doesn't even need to be about Batman. It just needs to be in the Batman voice.
Every story's about me, Alfred.
It'll be a story about some random dude whose parents died. And it'll just be in that voice.
And then someone screams the name Martha.
Absolutely.
And, yeah.
All right, time for a story. Todd was lost. For several years now, Todd had lived his life under the assumption that the child birthed by Uma, his ex, during his high school years wasn't his. Court dates and DNA tests that went nowhere almost a decade ago now haunted him. He thought he had done everything he could to find the truth. He was certain of it, but now self-doubt would forever haunt him. Nothing in the past, though, could change the facts of the present. He now knew he had a 9-year-old daughter named Rachel. What was even more of a struggle was this poor girl only recently learned of the possibility that her father was anyone other than John, the man who had, to that point, raised her. She spent her life believing her 2 sisters and her shared a father, only to now learn that her actual father was someone completely different. What could possibly be going through their minds, Todd thought. To further murky the family waters, Todd also had a 7-year-old son, Eric. Todd had raised Eric mostly on his own since he split with his mother, a completely different woman many years earlier. And Todd had never brought up the possibility of a sister because, well, Todd didn't think there was a possibility that Rachel was a sister. Talk about a complicated situation. Anyone that knows Todd knows he would never abandon his child. But Rachel doesn't know Todd, and Eric doesn't know Rachel, and Rachel doesn't know Eric. Essentially, Todd, Rachel, and Eric's lives have all effectively become a bonkers episode of the Maury Povich Show. Anxiety grew in everyone. Todd knew Eric well, and he could sense the internal struggle of a child learning they would now have to share the attention of their parent with another child. And though he didn't know Rachel very well, he could also sense how completely overwhelmed she was at the idea that she now had to listen to and spend time with a stranger who she only saw in the light that had been painted for her by her mother. Lastly, Todd knew he only had one shot to get this family thing right. His own anger or frustration over the circumstances of the situation mattered not at all. Make the wrong move with either child and they could be lost forever. It was neither of their faults, this situation that had arisen, yet they both had struggles of their own that deserved attention. As the car pulled up, Todd stared out the window, still debating how to handle the complexity of the situation. Should he allow Rachel to run wild and free, essentially spoiling her in order to win her love and respect? Should he do the same to Eric, so that he doesn't feel as though he matters any less? A million options were racing through Todd's mind when the rear car door opened and Rachel stepped out of the car. Todd looked at Rachel, and she was in near tears. It was obvious she did not want to be here. Todd began to tear up as well. He knew that his child was in pain, and it was he and her mother's mistakes that led her to this point. Todd looked down to see little Eric right under the window, stepping on tiptoes to get a look at his new big sister. Eric looked back at Todd, and for once Todd was completely oblivious to what Eric was thinking. His face was a combination of fear and excitement, bouncing easily between the two. 3 people, each one in various states of emotional despair. How many families could survive conditions like this? And could they ever come together as an actual family? Todd opened the door and welcomed Rachel in. He took her to her room, a room she would now have to share with Eric. As Rachel put her stuff on her new bed in this stranger's home, she turned to Eric and simply said, "Hey." Minor words for such a major life change. "Hi," Eric replied. Todd noticed something intriguing at this moment. Both Rachel and Eric were being cordial. There was no anger or hostility, just the air of the unknown underneath pleasantries. Todd decided to get the ball rolling. "So Rachel, what do you like to do for fun?" "Mostly video games, I guess," Rachel replied. "Have you ever played Star Wars on PlayStation?" Todd asked. Of course, she replied again. Can you teach me how to play? Eric chimed in. Sure, Rachel said begrudgingly. Now what seemed like a minor compromise morphed into laughter, excitement, and smiles all around later that night. Rachel and Eric played video games for hours, with Todd even jumping in a few times as they went. Both children seemed to toss their personal struggles and beliefs aside for this time, and before long, Todd had an epiphany. Leading up to this moment, all he could focus on was how difficult this would be for everybody involved, how impossible the situation would be to navigate. What he never stopped to realize is how much he was overthinking everything. Yes, everyone was hurting in their own way, it's true. No one was immune, yet they were all here. They were all trying. They wanted to try. What would get them through all of this wasn't spoiling anyone or treating one child better than another, or one child different than the other. What would get them through this was being genuine with each other, getting to know each other, and eventually loving each other. Everything takes time, and Todd knew in this moment that though it might take more time than others, his family was going to be just fine.
Probably wouldn't have been as impactful if it were in Batman voice.
And then Todd died in the alley.
And Todd knew in this moment that though it might take more time than others, his family was going to be just fine. You can't do it in Batman voice because all of his family dies.
Good. They needed to for the safety of Gotham.
So what's the moral or theme of that story?
The healing power of video games, right?
Dear God.
That's what I took away.
Love is a worthwhile struggle.
Well, that's cute. It's funny you framed it around the family there at the end, but my original thought was just that the innocent views of a child, because the kid's not kid's not going to process all that weight like the adult is. They're just going to be like, "Oh, sweet, you got a PlayStation."
Makes more sense, yeah. That's probably fair because adults overthink it. They've got years of baggage under their belt. But family is more than just bloodlines. It takes time.
Mm.
And so that's my first question. How do you guys define family?
Oh boy. I think a family is who you choose. I think people get caught up in blood too often, how you're obligated to remain in touch with people, but a lot of times a lot of people in your family are bad people. You know, they could be criminals, or they could be just general annoyances or scum. I mean, they could be bad. So I think family is who you choose. It can be, you can think of a friend as your brother. You know what I mean? Like, so that's family. Family is who you find. Blood of the covenant is thicker than water of the womb.
Sounds like you're basically talking about whatever you find on the street, or what? Just along the way of life?
Yeah, well, I mean, okay, so you're given a set of family when you're born, right? And that is your family growing up because you aren't allowed to make decisions.
You're assigned them.
Yes, you are assigned them. You're not allowed to decide about them until later. But as you grow older, you can tell a lot of times families stick together just because they're supposed to. But I don't think you necessarily have to, right? If you have a terrible aunt who, let's say, as an example, made you eat microwave mac and cheese while the family had a steak dinner at the table, and she made you sit in a position that you were forced to watch them eat a better meal than you were having, that person's not your family. That person's a horrible, wretched human.
Oddly specific.
As just a interesting example.
As a random example.
As a brief aside.
Mm-hmm. Understood.
So that person's not your family, even if they are your blood. And conversely, if you have a grandma and grandpa who's looked out for you most of your life and they're not your blood, they're still your grandma and grandpa. And if you do pick up a rodent on the side of the street, Aaron, and you come to love that rodent and you heal together, then of course that rodent is your family.
What happens when that rat bites you and gives you rabies?
Then you have rabies together as a family.
All right. Amanda, how do you define family?
Well, I feel like we talked a little bit about this in a previous episode.
Yeah, but I don't remember that one, so that's this one.
Okay, well, I was just saying, I think it's still the same for me, and I concur with Zach. For me, it's a combination. The people that are my blood relatives are still my family, but I feel like you can make more family and you can also cut out family. So although someone may be your blood relative, That doesn't mean that they have to be part of your family, like what you consider your family, what you bring around into your life. And you can also then choose to say, you know, I've had this friend for 20 years or whatever that's basically my sister or my brother, and that person does become your family. And you can choose that because, like Zach said, family is what you make of it. But I also believe that your blood relatives have, I'm trying to find the right word for it, because although someone may be your blood relative and they have kind of like that immediate access of being considered family, and even if they're bad, I don't necessarily see that as not family. It's just not family you connect with or keep around in your life. So I kind of see family as like a two-part thing.
Do you guys think we get over attached to the assignment factor?
Definitely.
You know what I mean? Because I see this all the time. And this is one thing I always wonder about. So say someone, and I'm not trying to pick on anyone who's been adopted or been put up for adoption for sure. I'm saying many times people who are put up for adoption, you know, many years later, they want to find the mother or father, the ones that put them up for adoption, and they have a personal plight for it. And I get why they want to, for some kind of closure for themselves or to find out why and whatnot. But if you hear a lot of stories where they meet them and they reconnect and they're just like, you know, I'm so glad we have a relationship. And I just don't, to me, I don't have an interest in that. I can't see that I would have an interest in that. Not that I'm saying that I can't understand why they would. I'm saying me personally, because just because I'm assigned that person as a parent, they weren't ever a parent. So I don't really feel like I ever need to treat them like a parent. You know, they never put in any of the work. So I just wonder how you guys feel about that.
Do you want like adopted kid, like adoption specifically?
No, not specifically, just in terms of the assignment factor. Okay, well, you weren't ever around, but you got the title. You didn't really do anything parenty or sisterly or cousinly or unclely or auntly, whatever it is. But I still have to, you know, treat you as though, let's say cousins. You never see them, you never hear from them, whatever. But whenever you have a family get together, you have to treat them like family. But do you really feel like family? Like, how do you guys feel about that whole assignment thing?
You know what? I think young people have an easier time dismissing the notion that blood matters. But I think those same young people, as they get older, get more hung up on it. So I feel like as you get older, you want your family to stick together and you don't want to see it fracture. So you fight for those blood connections because we're all supposed to be a family, right? But I think younger people have an easier time of being like, well, this uncle sucks, or this cousin, I don't know this person. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of a tough question. I get the adoption thing because you'd want answers, right?
Yeah, I totally get why that person would want answers. It's just, and then they have a relationship and they feel like they have a mother again, and I'm just like, I don't get that.
Well,
and I'm not knocking it, but believe me, I'm not. I just can't. I don't understand it, I guess, because in my mind, it's like you did no work for this,
right,
so
you get all the reward.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't understand the need for the blood connection, I guess.
Well, I know that I don't know that I understand why so many of us can feel like there is not necessarily an obligation to your blood relatives, but just like a closeness that you want to explore that you assume is there for blood relatives. And I mean, especially if we're talking about adoption, in my personal opinion, would totally want to know who that person is, because so much of your genetics and traits come from your parents. And this comes to the conversation or argument rather about the impact of nature versus nurture. But I feel like it's really to understand how are you who you are? And I think there's a component where your environment and the people who raise you really impact what you grow to be. But I also personally believe that there is a core level of who you are that's passed biologically. And I don't know why we have that need to connect with blood relatives. But I also think that that's a great way to explain the difference is like love and joy and respect is what creates family, but blood relatives are that. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're family. I'm trying to like reword how I had phrased it in the previous question. They can still be connected to you because of the blood relation, but family is a bit deeper, and it's who you connect with that you'll consider your family.
How do you guys feel about the whole blind love situation? You know, I was just, not to bring up a TV show. Yeah, blind love. When you, like for children, for family, for, you know, close friends, whatever, who you consider family, there's this, like, I was watching this show called Defending Jacob, right? Where this father thinks that his son possibly might have killed somebody. And I wonder, you know, for most people, I think, if they're the parent or they're the kid whose parents accused or their, you know, best friends accused or whatever, they stand by their side because they're still their family and whatnot. How do you feel? Like, what moment do you let that go? Where you just say, you know what? You're not really, you killed 14 people. I don't think you're family anymore. Like, at what point do you cast them aside? Because it's too wrong.
I mean, once they start hurting people, like that's a good indicator that you're not who I thought you were.
That quick though, huh?
If you're killing people?
But what if there's a good reason?
What is the good reason to kill 14 people?
Well, you can kill one person with a good reason.
I mean, maybe, yeah.
So I'm not ready to cut somebody out.
Hypothetically.
I'm not ready to cut somebody out at hurting, personally. 14 people, yeah, it's hard to defend. But even
once you cross the baker's dozen, man, it's really dicey.
Yeah, it's starting to look a little weird. But even then, even at 12 people, if it's your kid, I would still imagine you'd advocate for them to get help or something, help they need, etc.
Yeah.
Especially because if you were a parent, I imagine you would internalize that and be like, well, I messed them up. How did I lead them to this?
I should have noticed. There must have been signs.
So many parents do that, and I gotta be honest, I'd be like, man, they messed up.
What? If your kid
at some point, I'm cutting you're on your own. That's the way I look at it.
If your kid kills a couple people, that's on them. But if they start killing like 9 people and you're not noticing, I think it's a little on you.
But I also think that people...
That girl looks just like the girl you had over last night. What is going on, man?
Psychologically, I think people just are... They innately turn a blind eye to it. And it's not intentional. I think people just were wired, for the most part, to not see the bad potential in people, and to that degree, to that level. And I think that's why people are so fascinated with true crime and serial killers, because they can't fathom how someone they know could be like that.
And don't you think we also want to see the best in people we care about, right? We don't want to see their faults.
Because, well, and to a degree, the people we often connect with because we feel like they are a reflection of us in terms of our morals, in terms of our vision of life and different things like that. So if you connect so closely with someone who is a murderer or a rapist, and let's say it's murder for not good reasons, not valid reasons, Zach, that may affect you in terms of, okay, so what does that say about me that I'm connecting with someone who's that bad? And I don't think people want to look at the potential for problems in themselves.
Right. Not easy to confront those kind of truths.
Yeah, exactly.
Never is. No.
And you connect with these people because you see probably some positive from yourself in them.
Right. They're good at killing. I wish I was good at killing.
Stop it. This is going to be used in evidence someday.
Can they teach me?
Right. Yeah, they're going to use this excerpt in my court case.
I can't wait for both of your trials. It's going to be great.
Hypothetically.
Yeah. And then we introduced this episode of Smirk. Now, do you guys remember episode 100 where you talked about the theoretical possibility of murder?
Well, thank you so much for listening. I hope you subscribed to the episode and shared it with your friends. ...
Wouldn't it be great if somebody brought up podcasts as like evidence and you're like, did you subscribe?
Thanks for that download, man.
Yeah. Did you leave a review on Apple Podcasts? Because that would be helpful.
If I started
Thanks.
really switch to the top of the search algorithm.
It really does. It helps. So here's my next question. Do you believe love is instantaneous or does it have to be earned? And this is important because, people have brothers and sisters and mothers and fathers and sons and daughters and da-da-da-da-da. Do you feel like love is instantaneous or do you feel like it has to be earned? It's tricky.
Oh man, I would say both, right? From what I understand of parents, they seem to love their kids right away. So that's an instantaneous one. Like your example of Rachel here, probably had to Todd probably had to earn it, but Rachel's mom probably didn't because Rachel's mom was always there.
So it's just inherited, right? It's just like an inherited love. Yeah.
I guess that's what I'm trying to think is because so much of your love connections you don't think about because if you are in a household with parents and siblings and stuff, they're just kind of always there, so I guess that's technically instant because your memories have formed past the point of when it would have been earned, right?
Well, and I think there's some level of, with blood relatives, and I don't know if this is a societal thing or if this is just a biological thing, but I do feel like for the most part, when you have blood relatives and you see them as family, you instantaneously love them and that love is built. The trust can be taken away. You can destroy that relationship and that love and it can be impacted. But when it comes to a stranger you don't know or maybe you haven't, even if they are family and you didn't know them, you didn't grow up around them, you haven't had many experiences, you have to earn your trust that way. So I think to Zach's point, when we are children, when we are young, adolescents even, our love is more instantaneous than it is earned because it's all about the caregiving properties. And then as we get older, it becomes about earning that love. And obviously based on how you were raised and the different dynamics that affect you. But for the most part, then it becomes you have to earn my love and trust. Whereas if you're just someone has been around during your youth where you're a little bit more innocent, your mind hasn't really experienced generally as much trauma to make you question giving love and respect away to people, it's more instantaneous. And then as you get older, I think it becomes more earned.
I always found it fascinating that when people have romantic relationships, they fall in love. It's usually with people, either they have similarities or they're kind of opposites attract one way or the other. But with family, and that means that they have something in common together. They talk about certain things. They like a lot of certain things. But with family, how many people do you love in your family that you have zero in common with, that you have actual zero real conversations with because of whatever reason? It happens all the time. But you still love them. And many times you do anything for them. And then do you ever stop and go, but why?
Yeah,
I don't know why. I don't know. Like we've never had a real conversation. You don't, but for whatever reason, you're my aunt, you're my uncle, whatever. I love you. And I don't know why, but I do. I mean, I guess it's required because we've been around each other forever, but we don't really have real conversations. I mean, it's just a fascinating dynamic to me. The whole, how family love works.
I'm not wired that way.
No?
No, I don't. I don't love every cousin or every aunt and uncle, which is going to be fun if they were listening to this. But, I at the very most like them all. I probably would, but I can't, stopping your life to go help them in a time of deep struggle doesn't sound as easy as it would for my friend, that I do love, that I talk to all the time. So, I mean, I guess I don't feel an obligation to family in the way that you're describing.
I don't think that's a bad thing, by the way. I don't think it's a bad
No,
thing.
not at all. I think you're able to be more decisive in where your love and affection goes. But I think that goes back to what were the conditions and circumstances of which your childhood revolved around? Like if you experienced enough or a high level of sadness or betrayal or trauma from people that your youth you loved because they were around and they were family, then that can deteriorate your instantaneous love for family members, where everything becomes earned, where everything that people do, they have to earn from you. And I think that goes back to just how the conditions around our childhood.
Interesting. Well, family is always an interesting topic. And sometimes I wonder how people have the family they have. But I always love it when people count their friends as family, because to me, the older you get, they're usually the ones that are around more. So at least in my experience, friends are around far more than family typically. So I would consider many of them my family. And I just find that, and I hope nobody's listening, but it's true. It's true though, because as you grow older, you don't see them as much unless you run in the same circles or you do the same things, or like you go to church together, or whatever it is you do together. You go to brunch on Sundays or something. If you're not doing things together, you probably don't see them very often. You still consider them family, you love them and whatnot, but it's not the same as the ones that you spend a lot of your time with. Mostly, I mean, isn't it funny that for so many people, the only time they ever talk as a family is on Thanksgiving or Christmas?
Right, especially if you don't have Facebook or whatnot.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Zach speaking from experience, because Zach doesn't like social media.
Absolutely. But you know what? But it's so much cooler to see those people because of that.
How so? Because you have a lot to catch up on?
Well, yeah, you get to have conversations catching up, and you also don't get to know about your relatives' horrific political opinions and whatnot, right? You can just see them. You'll be like, hey, it's nice to see you again. Insert relative here, because I dare not use any examples. Just great to see you again. But if you had them on social media, you'd be like, oh man, this guy, this gal, they don't believe in increasing the minimum wage. I can't stand that, stuff like that.
And you're sitting there going, boy, I wish my minimum wage would go up. Yeah. That'd be great.
That's actually a really funny point that you're bringing that up, because when Aaron was talking about the response that we have to family members, where we would do anything for them, we love them, even if we don't ever talk to them. I definitely have family members that I love with all of my heart, would do anything for. And as I learn more about them as I'm getting older, and I know the good things, but even to Zach's point, maybe we have completely different political opinions, where I probably wouldn't hang out with you if we were just like getting to know each other because of friendships or something. But I still love you despite that. And it's probably just because you've been around for my whole life. And that's how you can be more accepting to difference of opinions.
I mean, sometimes that matters, right? Like I used to babysit my cousins when they were little. So therefore they owe me for life is the way I look at it. I mean, so they have to love me for the rest of their lives. It's just required. I've earned it.
Right.
But there's so many other people that I have cousins on a different side of the family that I'm not close to. I never see. And it's hard for me to say family when I never see them. To me, it's just very difficult. It's a complicated subject for sure.
And I think we're more willing to give pass to people we love and consider family for things we would never, there are certain things that my family members or people I consider family have done or said that if a stranger said or did them, I'd be like, nah, I don't really want you around, at all. I'm good. But then when it comes to those people, you're like, oh, okay, maybe this is an opportunity to teach, and maybe we can talk about this, and maybe we can help them understand different perspectives.
You know what? Maybe it would help the world heal if we had that opinion about the strangers. Well, you know what? This is an opportunity.
Yeah.
It's true. You do forgive your family a lot quicker than you would other people.
You do.
Yeah.
And you make excuses for them. A lot of people make excuses for their family members and pardon their bad behaviors because, even if they're a murderer, it's like, you don't understand what they went through. But if it was a stranger, they'd be like, put that man/woman in jail for the rest of their lives.
Well, there's such a weird amount of social pressure with family and the family dynamics. And yeah, you turn your back on the murdering uncle, but now his sister, your aunt, doesn't want anything to do with you, but you like them up until then. So it's such a weird social minefield, everything to do with family. Even this very podcast with this topic, Aaron has chosen a minefield.
It's always a minefield.
And everyone's gonna message you on Facebook, Aaron, and be like, "Am I the cousin?
Maybe.
Do you love me?"
You might be. Are you listening? You might be. You might be. Buy me gifts. That's how you win me forever. So my last question, what kind of family do you hope to have one day? Zach, come on. Honest question. What kind of family do you want to have someday? We've all grown up in fractured families. I think most people in America have anymore. So what kind of family do you want to have?
I don't really know. I'm wavering on children, but yeah, with like a spouse, that would be cool. I think that would be almost enough for me. Or honestly, adopt a kid or something. I don't need to further the bloodline personally. So I mean, maybe
just to keep that name going.
Not necessary. Well, you can keep the name going with an adopted kid too, right? I mean,
yeah, sure.
But for me, because I don't really view flesh and blood as the end all be all of family. The idea of adopting young kids who might not have another chance, and giving them hopefully a home that is together and doesn't fracture, does appeal to me quite a bit.
That's a great answer, Amanda.
Well, that was so sweet. I definitely want child/children eventually that don't have 4 legs. I have my spouse, so I'm set there. I don't know. I love the concept of, and I wish it happened more, of having like regular meals with family, even as adults. Like having regular meals with family would be really great. And as I get older, I want to make sure that that's something that I do with my, future children. And
I'm a big fan of the family dinners with no TVs.
Yeah, it's
really
a good way to
no
connect.
TV, no phone, etc.
That kind of surprises me coming from you, because you're like somebody who's like, I want to play video games and watch Zack Snyder movies.
Well, I can watch those slow motion blockbusters or play those video games outside of dinner time. But I feel, first of all, I hate the argument of what are we going to watch while we eat dinner. Hate it. I also, I don't know if you guys have this, but the argument of what are we going to have for dinner?
Mm-hmm.
So first,
I hate thinking about dinner.
So you have to fight and figure out what dinner is, and then you have to fight and figure out what you're going to watch, and it's a lot. I'd rather just talk to you as a human being, but you got to really got to commit to the dining room, honestly, with the space and whatnot. So it's a matter of figuring that out. But I like that. Holds a lot of appeal to me. You being forced to converse. Maybe you leave the phones on the kitchen counter. You don't get it back till you finish eating.
I'm a big fan of that. I'm a big fan of no phones during dinner. Can't stand it.
Like, I don't even honestly, Thanksgiving or Christmas where everyone just kind of splinters off. You know what I mean? In their own little huddles. I almost wish you could have a giant Jesus Christ style table.
Oh, you mean sometimes there's the kids table?
Sorry, I was thinking after that. So I was in whoa, that's dark.
No, I'm sorry. The Last Supper.
The big table. Yeah, big table.
Yeah. Nice big long table you can all chat. But yeah, you go into your, the cousins go over here and the kids go over here, and here's the, these two uncles have a financial thing they got to discuss, so they're going over here, or the football game's on, so that group's just all watching that. I'm not even crazy about that.
I also would like a regular game thing. I think games are so fun and a good way to build relationships.
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
Maybe leave Monopoly out for some years or something, but never. Having regular games, that is one of my favorite pastimes, is playing games, like board games and card games. And, I mean, you could incorporate video games, too. You could do, some Mario or something.
Be dumb not to, honestly.
But I think stuff like that is just, it's fun, and you can engage with your family, but you can still be entertained, and it builds some really good memories. So doing stuff like that, like family dinner and game night regularly. Okay.
Well, that's pretty much it for this
You didn't
episode.
answer.
I didn't. I have family. I'm already old. You guys are
But
younger.
is the family you have now, is this how you envisioned your family to operate, if you will?
I never really had a plan, honestly. I mean, I grew up with just my mom mostly, and my grandfather and grandmother. So I didn't have a ton, and my friend Dennis, those were my family and still are. Well, my grandpa obviously passed away, but now I have kids. They're my family. And, as I've gotten older, I've realized that even though I have family and on one side of my mom's side, I'm much closer, obviously, to everybody, but I've got a lot of friends that I consider family. Like, they're my family. And I notice I have a lot of close friends as I've gotten older, and I think that's important. And most people don't have that. Many people don't have that. And I feel bad for them. I think it's great if your main source of family is your wife, parents, kids, and that's it. But I have learned, probably because of the way I was raised, like you were talking about, Amanda, that friends matter too. Like, they're the ones that are often the ones that are there for you. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they don't get enough credit.
Yeah, they're there out of choice, not obligation.
Exactly. That is the trick, right? That even makes it maybe even a stronger bond sometimes. And usually you have something in common with them because there's a reason why you're hanging out with them to begin with. Mm-hmm. Except for Dennis. I literally have nothing in common with Dennis. And I've been friends with him since I was 5 years old.
Maybe I should date. Opposites attract.
I don't like bald people. All right, so what...
Yeah.
And I guess, Amanda, if you're asking like immediate family, specifically immediate family, yeah, that's the family I wanted. You would think by all accounts my family would be, I don't know, homeless or drug addicts by now based on everything that's happened to us. We're pretty fractured, but we've all come together as a family, and I'm very, very proud of my father, who wasn't around when I was a kid, but really turned a corner, and my kids are both healthy and doing very well and very intelligent, very funny, very, very good people, which is really what you want as a parent. My life there is good. Immediate family is great, all the way around. It's great. So I have no complaints there. And I don't know if like I said earlier, I didn't envision anything, but it's come out okay. And they've been nothing but supportive in my crazy podcast endeavors, which is to say something. It's definitely to say something. My story, was it truth or fiction?
I gotta tell you, it feels pretty true to me.
Yeah, I'm going to go with truth for this one.
Not answering. It's episode 100. If you go back and listen to the names contain clues to whether it's true or false.
Wow. A mystery.
Kind of.
A murder mystery episode. Episode 100.
Nobody died yet.
Yet.
Right. Yeah, not yet.
That you know of.
That's if Smirk returns, that's the next episode.
Is the murder.
Is if they survive or if they die.
What's the name of your story?
Family Matters.
Like the sitcom.
I was going to say, like the TV show?
Yeah, exactly. Did I do that? No, wait. Yeah, is that the right one?
I don't know. I got no... I've never seen Family Matters.
Matters.
Okay, well, that's the end. Literally, it could be the end. We don't know. We'll see. But we are going on hiatus. This is episode 100. I hope you guys enjoyed it. It was a very long discussion on family. That's what we were talking about. But as family, as you are our family, or a family of listeners, we are going on hiatus. This is maybe it's the end. I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts on the past 4 seasons of Smirk?
It was a lot of fun, man. It's hard, it's hard coming up with stories all the time. Not gonna lie. But it always leads to a fun discussion. Even stories where I'm like, man, I've written really a terrible story, but it still leads to interesting discussion somehow. So it's fun. And I gotta tell you, the fans, I've done a few podcasts now, and I would say while the Smirk listenership is smaller than most of those, they are more passionate, which has been a lot of fun.
Yeah. It's really cool seeing the listeners that come out and I just binged the whole podcast. And you're like, wow, you could really handle that. Okay. And I'll say we've had some really, really good discussions. I think a lot of topics people generally sway away from, and yet we've kind of just encountered them head on and talked about a lot of great stuff. And you two have always brought, I think, great stories. You both are fantastic writers.
That's obvious. Yeah.
Of course. So Smirk is a love.
Yeah, and if you're asking why would you be possibly hanging out? It's just, it's difficult to juggle the schedules, and the audience hasn't grown. So that helps. So if you can get the word out and make us a juggernaut, we'll come back. You know, I mean, you can buy us. We're for rent. But as of right now, with schedules and whatnot, it just we're definitely going to go on a hiatus, and we'll see where things go. We always check the numbers, so we'll know if the show suddenly takes off or something. And we hope you guys have enjoyed the past 100 episodes of this. There's a lot, and I actually enjoy going back and re-listening because it's kind of fun to go back. And thankfully, because we don't have many dated topics, most of the stuff replays well.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That was that was the nature of the show, right? To try to make it a little bit evergreen.
Yep.
And I love our group's dynamic. I think our trio is fantastic.
Damn straight. Damn straight. Well, if you like Smirk, please share this episode on your social media outlets. And be sure to use our show's hashtag Smirk. You can subscribe to Smirk on your podcast app of choice, just in case. You never know. And our website is smirkpodcast.com. No, it's SmirkPod. It's SmirkPod. Our website is smirkpodcast.com, not @.com. That would be weird.
That'd be a little bizarre.
Yeah. And as you write your own life story, always remember to tell it for the rest of your life with a smirk.
With a smirk.
Why are you trying to take my thing?
No, I was just trying to join in with you. I was hoping Zach might do the same thing too.
Maybe he didn't want to. Maybe he realized that was my thing.
Didn't. Oh, okay. I didn't realize this was your thing.
With a smirk.
With a smirk.
That was so delayed.
Yeah, that was
with the what time is it? With the smirk. Yeah, guys, smirks. Hey, you're still here. So either you really, really love to hear to the very end of a podcast, or you just don't know where the stop button is. One of those, right? Well, I'm putting this little bit in here, is it an Easter egg? Is it a stinger? I don't know what you call it. But because it's probably going to be the last episode of Smirk, and well, I say that, taking into account, we really hope the show does blow up and finally finds a huge audience and takes off. That would be great. We would come back. But I figured longtime listeners, people that are really devoted to the show, people that stuck around this long after the show actually ended, I would give them a little something extra. So the reason we're shuttering the show essentially is because, our numbers have actually gone down, not up. As we've done this, Smirk's never been a big show, but it was consistent and it kind of fell off. Now I don't know if it's because of the breaks, I don't know why, but sometimes that's just how it goes. We've made it to 100 episodes. We thought that's a great number. In terms of TV for years, that's been the syndication mark. That's a number where you hit it, bam, you're getting residuals, you're going into syndication, life is good, you were a success. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm taking that as the omen. And Amanda and I and Zach had talked about it quite extensively and agreed that, based on where we are, this is a good place to walk away if need be. If that changes, great. Just stay subscribed. You'll find out pretty quick. And we might even come together and do some kind of reunion or bonus. So you never know what's going to happen. So I would stay subscribed if I were you. But also I wanted to say thank you to everybody that's listened this whole time, or maybe you just started and you become a fan of the show. Thank you so much for listening. This has been kind of a pet side project for a long time that we were all three passionate about. I wouldn't do it without Amanda or Zach. One of them left, show would have ended already. So it became difficult with schedules because we've got a different kind of format. We've got to write a story, so you've got to have time for that. You've got to have something speaking to you that makes you want to tell a story, and that can be difficult sometimes. And it's just how things work out. Doesn't mean anything. Just means we felt like, it's a good time. It's a good time. Something changes, we'll be back, but it's a good time. But thank you to everybody who's listened. We've really, really appreciated the support and the love and the feedback we've gotten from you over the years. It has been a wonderful 4 years, I think, now. So we really, really do appreciate it. It means the world. I remember when we were first having the conversations with Amanda and Zach about doing this, and, we kind of went all over the place. It started with a small idea, which was write a short story and then just kind of talk about whatever the topic was. And it's expanded a little bit from there and gone into all kinds of wild directions. In 100 episodes, you can still go back and re-listen to them because I don't think many of those topics are dated. They're really, really open to times, and you can listen to them at any point, which I'm very proud of because most podcasts, these days are not like that. They're very built on the moment, where ours are more built around a general idea. So it's been fun. It's been fun. And I couldn't have done it without either one of them, and they couldn't have done it without me. So it worked out. Like our trio, I think, was beautiful, and it's a very special project for me and them, I hope. So I'm very happy for all of the feedback and love we've gotten from you guys. And I specifically and especially want to thank Amanda and Zach, or Zach and Amanda, whichever way you want to put them, because this show works because of them, and it wouldn't work without them. They have made this a joy and a love to do, despite some of the scheduling complications that can come up when you're trying to get 3 people to have a ton of other stuff going on and trying to find time to do this. But it was always a great time. We had so many great conversations aside from what you heard. And that's really going to be something that I'm going to remember for the rest of my life. And I'll always be very, very proud of this show. I've done a lot of podcasts, not necessarily all of them I'm proud of, but I'm very, very proud of Smirk. And even the title is very, very personal, that you'd have to be close to me or us to really understand what that means. So thank you, everybody, for listening. And Amanda and Zach, thank you so much. Thank you so much for making this a very, very special ride. And please remember, in all sincerity, the next time you tell your life story to anyone, be sure to tell it with a smirk.